You are an exception in many ways. I mean, like you're eschewing the Harvard law degree is unusual. I think you were a Louis Vuitton model for a minute. Is that accurate?
Not Louis Vuitton, but similar stuff. I spent a little bit of time in undergrad. I'm doing that. It was a job I had. It certainly was cleaner than catching chickens. That was my first job.
From cleaning chickens to fashion photography to law school to public servant, and you're also a Democrat. Who, even though I know you don't consider yourself partisan party member, you're just like an Iowan. But you're technically a Democrat who bow hunts.
Yes, grew up my bow hunting. My dad taught me how to do it. We were gun owners my whole life. He had a BB gun in my hands when I was a very little kid, shooting pop cans, making them pee, and that was something that was a big part of my upbringing. Just spending time outdoors, going fishing, really anything to get out there and enjoy God's creation, and that to me is a big piece of this of my success too. Is I think people are surprised to hear. And for people who want to learn more about me, it's robsand.com, QR code behind me there. But most people, I think if you said like, okay, here's a candidate who was born and raised in a town of 7,000 people, and you have to drive an hour even to get to a town of 50,000, so a very rural area, who is in church every Sunday, who likes to hunt and fish, and who owns guns, including handguns. I mean, what percentage of people would say, oh, that's a Republican, that candidate? I mean, 80 to 90%,
totally.
it'd be a huge number. But all of that is a part of what I grew up with. And my parents weren't really, they were registered independents when I was growing up. I remember them voting for Democrats and for Republicans. They were much more focused on community service. They were both in the helping professions. My mom was like the county chair for Habitat for Humanity, and so to me, it was always, well, this political system is what we're in, but that doesn't mean that we have to love it. We can protest it at the same time that we are prisoners of it. We don't have to just, we can participate in it and still protest it at the same time. It's sort of what we're stuck with. But we should work on changing it, because at the end of the day, again, I think a lot of times there's just too many folks out there that have a knee-jerk reaction to anything just because it comes from either the leader of their party or the leader of the other party. And we can't meet our potential. We can't meet our potential as a state until we change that kind of thing. And I'm a big believer in that idea. And I think it'd be good for the country too. We just need more people, more elected officials, where their incentive is actually to focus on common sense and what most people want.
So the juxtaposition, though, it's like if people think about, senior Democrat, and you are the only statewide elected Democrat in Iowa, senior Democrat bow hunter, like those two things don't go together anymore, because most Democratic areas are skew kind of urban at this point. That there's like this educated component too, and you're obviously very highly educated. You just happen to be from a place with a certain culture. I will tell a story. This isn't about Decorah necessarily, but I was touring Iowa on a 17-stop bus tour. And there was one stop that had, I don't know, maybe 12 people. It was like the throes of the campaign. And then someone on my team was like, no, you don't understand. 12 is a great number for this town. Like 12 is like 3% of the town or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I was always good natured about all those things. But I went to some very, very small towns where like having a few people show up was a big deal, because, like people have lives.
Yeah. No, and I that's one of the things that I think makes this very real is, I always remember Martin O'Malley had an event. There was a snowstorm. He was like, well, we're going to stick to the schedule. And one guy came out. And so he had a conversation with one guy. And I think that's a good test for people who want to run in for office is one person still worth your time? How do you react to that kind of a situation? It can be humbling for people, and I think that's good for them. And it's one of the reasons that I love Iowa. People are just like, oh yeah, like, well, that's great that you're a U.S. senator and blah, 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 but and it's nice that you called me on my personal phone, but I want to make sure I listen to all the other candidates first and give everybody a fair shot before I make a decision about who I'm committing to. But a lot of that too, I go back to this, like, I think that's part of the reason that I'm in this race is just because I feel like you and I are sitting here swapping stories about small town Iowa, talking about the heart of the state. And yet state government in Iowa has become so disconnected, I think, from what the state of Iowa is all about. So it's been, we all know the phrase, right? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Iowa has now put a time frame on that. It took 10 years of one party control to get to the point where we are now, which is our economy is 49th in the country, according to the Trump administration, 50th, according to Wallet Hub. But our growth rate for cancer incidences is number 1 in the country.
That's not what you want.
And Andrew, they spent time gutting the auditor's office ability to find misspent money. They have a $900 million hole in the state budget, a record budget deficit. And they, despite all of these problems, all of them entirely foreseeable, they literally, after we found a record amount of misspent money in my first term as state auditor, passed a law that makes it harder for us to find misspent money. Like, they're putting their time and their energy and effort into things that serves this tiny number of insiders and special interest groups and just totally leaves Iowans behind. They have just become completely, I think, disconnected from what the state culture as a whole really is. And that's what I want to do. I want to be a governor for all. I mean, I want to restore state government to a place where everybody can feel listened to and everybody can feel like they're a part of this state.
Some people listening to this right now are thinking, okay, this Rob guy seems cool. He seems smart. He seems principled. Yang seems to like him, but he's running for governor in a state that, as far as I can tell, has gone pretty red. I'm going to put a number on it. Let's call it +9 red. If I'm just a democracy reform person, what is Rob going to do in Iowa that might excite me in terms of open primaries, Final Four, ranked choice voting, anything where we can be like, ooh, that there's like a structural argument to be made?
Yeah. So I think number one, in terms of, the idea of winnability, again, people think, oh, Iowa, it's red. But we have continued to have Democrats lose the closest races in the country here. We lost literally the closest congressional race in American history in 2020, the closest congressional defense of 2022 in 2022, and then the closest loss for a red to blue candidate in 2024. So even though the Republicans have been winning most of the elections in Iowa, a lot of them have been by close margins. Here's the other thing I'll say. I've won 2 elections. I'm 2 for 2. So if you think a candidate can win, you might want to look at their past and decide whether or not that is instructive. And I've been able to win when a lot of other folks around me have not been able to do that.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.